Hello, everyone. My name is Felicia, and I am a writer, a ghostwriter, a book publisher, a book editor. And one thing I talk about a lot is writing and book writing. So, I am an author of about 8 books. Yeah, I'm an author of 8 books, and today I'm going to be sharing my journey as a writer and as an author, the challenges, how it all started, most importantly, because for every success story there is always a beginning. So I have the questions written here with me already, and so I'm just going to be giving answers to those questions that has already been asked by Miss Miracle Obia. So yeah, let's go. Now the number one question is, what first made you believe you could actually become an author? What first made you believe you could actually become an author? Let me quickly share this story. I actually started writing since I was a kid. Like as early as 5, I was already writing. I was a lover, or I still am, a lover of books. I love reading. And I think I got the habit of writing through my constant reading of books. And so I would read and get ideas on different topics to write on. And mostly I wrote stories. I wrote stories, short stories like that, just children's stories because it was my age then. And so after writing those books, I will sell them. As far back as over 15 years ago. So I will sell my books, and I think most times 20 naira. I'll sell it. After writing, I will just package the book. I'll write in a paper now. I'll just package it, draw pictures on the book cover, and sell it out to friends. And they were eager to buy. They always bought the book because it was so interesting. The stories there were always interesting. And so that was the first thing that made me have the vision of becoming an author that the world will know, that the world will talk about, becoming an author that will make impacts to the world at large. Now, I've always loved storytelling, like I said, and I now came to believe that if people could read those stories and it was interesting to them, then definitely I have words that are powerful in me. And not only would those words be interesting, it would also be impactful. It would also be something that people that can transform lives. The words that I write in my book can also be something that somebody will read and be like, oh wow, I got insight from this. And so that was what made me believe that I can become an author, because I believe that there is something inside of me that I could express to people through my writing. So yeah. And also I came to realize that writing is not reserved for a special group of people. I realized that writing is for those who are willing to learn, those who are willing to grow, and those who keep showing up. And the more you keep showing up, the more you realize that there is something deeper, there is something more. So that was how I first believed that I could actually become an author. Now, on to the second question. She asked, was there a moment you almost gave up on writing? What happened? Yes, not just a moment. There were moments I almost gave up on writing. And what happened? Um, as a growing child, as one who didn't grow with her parents, at least I didn't stay with my parents for like some years, because after I lost my mom, we moved out of the house. And so I was not encouraged to write. I wasn't. Each time I took up my book and pen to write, there's always something that somebody will say against my interest in writing. And so as a result of that, I just told myself, I believed the things they said against my interest as a writer. And I just forgot about writing. I dropped it, and I believed that it was of no use. So, but as time went on, and as I grew, as I grew up, I I found out that that gift of writing was still with me. I found out that I still have this ability to pass message through writing. And so I was scrolling through Facebook one day, and a friend of mine posted something about writing challenge or so. And so I was like, okay, let me just join this challenge, because I had read a lot of stories from that particular friend, and I it encouraged me. So I was like, okay, if this person can write stories like this, then let me also try. Let me see if I can do that. And so I started writing. I would write, and I wrote a lot. That's in that writing challenge, and eventually I won. I became the first. Yeah, eventually I became the first. So that was what now brought back that interest. That was what now made me decide again that I was going to return to writing. Now, after that, I now became active on Facebook. I kept on writing, but at a point, I was no longer getting comments. There was nobody, even people that would like my post, then were not up to 10. And it was draining, because it felt like I was writing to people, but they were not acknowledging whatever it was I was writing. It was so discouraging. I felt really bad, and most times I'll be begging people in my comment section. I'll be saying, please, you people should react, because I felt that those reactions were validations that my writing was good. That was the biggest mistake I made. So at a point, when those reactions were not coming, when nobody was commenting, nothing from any of my audience, I just told myself that it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it, and I decided that I wasn't going to continue writing. But I was just a child then, and I don't think, but I was just a child then, and now I would never repeat such. Yes, I questioned whether my writing mattered. I did that a lot. I wondered if people would ever read my write ups, because if only 5 people or 10 people were engaging on my post, it was obvious that most of them were not even reading the posts. Most of them were just looking at the pictures attached to it and commenting. So I was feeling like, would people ever read my posts? Will people ever, that kind of discouragement? Yes, I started doubting myself. I started doubting myself, and it affected me a lot. It reduced my self-confidence. I started comparing myself with other writers. Now let me share something. Imagine that I post something. To me, I posted something that was really powerful, something that was really, because that kind of, as a writer, there's this kind of write up you write that you be born in, because the kind of voice that or wisdom or virtue that has come out of you because of that write up, you will be feeling fire, and then with that fire you will post it. And with that fire, you'll be expecting that this thing I'm feeling, other people should feel it, but nobody will feel that. You feel so bad that at the end of the day, with all these things, all these long posts, all this I was writing and blasting in tongues and all that, all this thing I was writing, only 3 people reacted. So, and then you will not see a fellow writer like you She didn't even write much. Maybe just one short write up. And to you, that write up is not even as powerful as yours. And you see people over 100 comments, over 500 likes. And you be like, what did this person write? You begin to compare yourself with them. At times, I even wanted to start copying the writing style of other writers just so that I can get my audience to like my post the way they usually like the post of others. But it never worked that way for me. And so, I have to speak to myself and tell myself to be true to myself. I don't need the validation of people in order to be able to continue in my writing. Yes, it might be discouraging that people would not like your post. You might receive a lot of discouragement from people telling you that your writing doesn't make any sense. But come on, it does. It does make sense. And whatever they are saying should not be the validation that drives you. You believe in your writing. So I believed in my writing, I believed in my ability, I believed in the message that I had. And so that was what brought me back right on track. I realized that I cannot walk away from writing. Writing for me is a ministry. Writing for me is a calling. It is a gift. And I cannot just abandon it. So I told myself, hey, Felicia, you won't just sit down here moping. You won't just sit down here comparing yourself with others. You won't just sit down here thinking or expecting people to start reacting on your post. You wouldn't sit here and wait for the validation of people. You would write. You would write regardless. And that was just what I did. I continued writing because writing is part of me. Now, she asked the third question, which is, what is one mistake you made as a new writer that you now warn others about? See, I made mistakes as a writer. But you see, the particular mistake I know that really cost me a lot was thinking or feeling that I knew it all. I thought that as long as I know how to speak good English, then I can write. But I didn't understand the grammar rules, punctuation, and all that. I didn't understand, excuse me, I didn't understand how important it was to edit your work, to have the right structure. I didn't understand that I needed to learn the art of writing. So that was one mistake I made because most times then, after posting, I will begin to go through my posts. Maybe after I had posted, and I begin to see errors. I begin to see sentences I could have rephrased, punctuation marks that I could have corrected. And I didn't know all these things then. I felt that since I can speak good English, I know how to put full stop and comma. I felt that was all. But after learning the crafts, and I now went back to those posts, at times I would just be ashamed of myself. I almost want to cover my face and be like, should I me write this thing? So that is one mistake I made, not understanding the art of writing, not understanding that editing is really important, that after writing I should still go through my work and rephrase sentences that needs to be rephrased, cut out parts that are not necessary, restructure the sentences, restructure my words, put the punctuations in the right places, follow the right rules of English grammar. If I had known that, it would have helped me as a beginner. Number four, how did you handle self-doubt during the writing process? Hmm. The truth is that self-doubt still shows up till now. Yes. Even as an author of 7 books and as one who has edited quite a number of books for my clients, I still experience self-doubt sometimes. Self doubt will not just disappear. There are times when I can be writing something and it just comes up that, How are you sure that this message you are writing is actually correct? How are you sure that this thing you are saying, somebody else has not said it? It just comes in different forms, in different ways. And the errors too, maybe the way I'm writing, the English is not really flowing. There are times when the English will not flow. So by the time those that I'll begin to, the self doubt will just come in that what are you writing? What's the thing you're writing? And so, you know what I tell myself whenever self doubt comes up? I just tell myself to come on, breathe in. Remind yourself that first drafts, first drafts are meant to be messy. Yes. Because whenever you are writing, the first draft should be messy. I know, yes, so self doubt would come in that moment. You begin to wonder, this thing I'm writing, is it really accurate? It will begin to tell you, how are you sure this thing you are writing? How are you sure this message you want to pass is the fact? How are you sure people are not going to argue with you? How are you sure they won't drag you? But just tell yourself that it is the first draft and it can be messy. There's the stage of editing, there's the stage of carrying out research, but that first draft is very important. That first draft is very important, and that is what you should focus on at the moment. So that's how I handle it. I focus on the first draft at the moment. Why the self-doubt keeps on rushing in, I just tell myself, come on, you need to quickly allow the inspiration to flow and finish this first draft. By the time I'm now done with the first draft, I can now go back to what I have written and begin to check it. I carry out researches and I keep on checking to see if what I have written is accurate. If there are things I need to add or things I need to edit or things I need to cut out, I will now say, okay, I need to restructure this. I need to rephrase this sentence like that. At that moment when I have been able to carry out that and find out that my write-up is now clear and concise, then I'll have confidence. But in the first moments, that self-doubt will always come. Now, another stage of self-doubt is in when you are done writing the book. When I'm done writing my book, even after the editing process, even after the writing whatever, even after all the process and the book is now ready, there's this that comes up and begins to whisper into your ears and ask you, how are you sure that your audience need this book? People will not read, people will not buy this book from you. Even if you are giving it out for free, nobody will download. You begin to doubt if you are really, if it's worth it, if you are really qualified to pass a message across. See, whenever that self-doubt comes up, I silence it and I tell myself that my voice matters. And nobody has said my message the way I am supposed to say it. So yeah, even if someone else has written a book on fear, they have not written it the way I wrote mine. Do you understand? So by the time I tell myself that, I'm able to build confidence and chase or do away with self doubt. Now, number five, what does your writing routine realistically look like? Hmm. I'm a mom and my writing routine is not rigid, neither is it perfect. There are some days that might really be unproductive for me in the aspect of writing, and there are some days that are really productive. So, what I do is that despite having a long day, a stressful day, or I connect myself to writing. Even if it's just a sentence, even if it's just a paragraph, I make sure I write. I make sure I type something. Even if it's just a line, it helps me stay in track. I do not have a perfect routine, but I have ways that works for me in my writing. The number six question she asked was, at what point did you realize that writing is more than inspiration? So I realized that writing is more than inspiration when I started seriously editing. I realized that beyond the flow of words, there is editing, there is structure. You need to make sure that your words are clear. And from there I realized that writing actually needs a lot of discipline, because you must be disciplined to take time to rewrite your words. And that was when I realized also that writing is discipline. Beyond the inspiration, beyond the flow of words, there is a place of discipline. There's a place of discipline. There is the stage of rewriting. And if you are not disciplined enough, you wouldn't want to go through that stress or through that process of rewriting, of editing, of restructuring, of making sure that your words follow the English grammar rules. You wouldn't, with discipline, you would understand that beyond the inspiration, you need to refine your ideas in ways that will suit your audience, in ways that will suit your readers. Number seven question: what role has feedback played in your growth as an author? Now, let me share something that happened, I think, towards the end of last year. So, I became a student last year, a university student, and one of the criterias, one of one of the criterias for submitting our assignment is that it must be in academic standard. That is, your writing must be an academic writing where you have to put your in-text citations, the references, and the rest of all that. And trust me, it was really stressful. And when I started submitting my assignments, my course instructor then would give feedbacks, and those feedbacks were kind of discouraging to me, because I felt that as a writer, as a very good writer who is good with researches, I'm not supposed to have problem with submitting my assignment or adding references, because it's something I do as a writer. But she wanted me to write more professionally, and so her feedback kept on coming in back to back. At a point I was like, this woman doesn't see anything good in my writing. There's no time, I was not feeling like there's no time she ever says that I'm actually teaching. I'm actually There was no time she ever gave something. There was no time she never gave a correction in all my assignment submissions. And so I was scared of always going through her feedbacks. But do you know what? Despite being scared of always going through her feedbacks, I I still decided to check through the feedbacks. I started reading those feedbacks, and I bet you at the end of the term, she really applauded me for coming this far. She really applauded me for the growth, because I now took her feedback as I didn't see it as criticism again. Instead, I saw it as something that would help me scale through, as something that would help me move forward. And I promise you, ever since then, other other submissions I've made to other of my course instructors, they've not had complaints, because my work has always been professionally written. And I can tell you, I now understand academic writing, and I even offer the services most times to some students. So what am I saying in essence? I'm not the type that handle feedback positive, because I'll begin to feel like this person that is giving me feedback doesn't like me. I begin to feel that this person is always criticizing me. That was what I usually feel. But the moment I decided in my head that I wouldn't take feedback as criticism, instead I would take them as encouragement to grow, to become better. That was what helped me. I, I, and as a result of that, feedback has helped me to grow. It has been very important. Right now, if I don't get feedback on my work, I feel like maybe there is something wrong somewhere because I need feedback. I need I need it to grow. It has really it has really helped me as an author because it has helped me realize things I might have missed. When somebody gives feedback on my writing, on the work I have done, I'll go back to it. Okay, this is where I missed. This is the point where I missed. This is where I need to improve. And you know what? Growth. Growth. Yes, it might be stretching, it might be tasking, it might be stressful, but guess what? Growth. And that is the goal as an author for me and for every writers out there, for every author out there, to grow. Take feedback as an opportunity to grow and don't see feedback as just criticisms. The number 8 question she asked was, if you could rewrite your first book today, what would you change? Well, I've rewritten my first book, and what I changed was the fact that um I didn't do the formatting the way I was supposed to do it. You see, it is important to write a book, but the interior is also another way to keep your readers glued. The formatting, your fonts, the arrangement of your writing, it speaks a lot. It's not just about typing words, it's not just about editing, but how does your book appear to your readers? Do you understand? So yes, I still appreciate that my first book taught me lessons. It represents where my journey started. However, I have chosen to evolve and not just to remain at that place where I was as a first time author. Number 9 question. How did you balance creativity with structure? Well, here's how I balance it. I came to understand that creativity is what allows your ideas to flow. Creativity allows your ideas to flow, but structure is what make those ideas make more sense to the reader. Is what makes your idea make more sense to the reader. Structure. So here is how I balance creativity with structure. First of all, I allow myself to be as creative as I can. I keep on writing. I allow the inspiration to flow. Then after I have finished writing, I come back to it and begin to give it structure. Do you understand? So that is how I've been able to balance. I do the first step, which is creativity, before I move into structure. Because I understand that if I'm trying to create structure while I'm still being creative, I might have a block. I might be unable to continue that particular um, write up because of what there's a block. I've distracted myself and it can stop the inspiration from flowing. So I give myself the opportunity to write first. After I've written, I can now come back and add structure to what I have already written. Do you understand? So number 10 question. Number 10 question. What part of publishing surprised you the most? Marketing. There was one silly thing I did that each time I remember it, I just shake my head and tell myself, ignorance is bad. Because tell me why I wrote my first book and I didn't even announce to my audience that I was writing a book. Number one. I didn't prepare myself for the marketing of the book. So, I actually have followed quite a number of I have quite a number of authors and writers as my friends on Facebook. And so I usually see them post, I just finished writing my Facebook. And the next thing that will be pouring in their comment section is congratulations, right? And after the next post, the next subsequent post they'll be making is somebody just bought 2 copies of my book. And at the end of the day, they'll come out and say, I sold 100 copies of my book. So I thought that as soon as I wrote a book, people will come and buy. I didn't know that I had to market that book. So after writing my first book, in 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, so I did the publicity and I started telling my audience to buy. Well, do you know that it was only a few persons around my circle that read that book? Marketing. If I had known that I needed to put a lot of effort in marketing my book, if I had known that there was a lot to do in the aspect of publicity, I would not have made that first mistake I made. That that's one thing that really surprised me. I felt that once I announced my book, people will keep on trooping and start buying, but it was not like that. Number 11. What is one hard truth about publishing? Hmm. I just thought about marketing, right? So publishing a book doesn't automatically mean that people will read it. You have to be visible, create visibility, be consistent, make sure that your audience know you. These three things: visibility, consistency, and your audience, a relationship, a connection with your audience. That is one hard truth about publishing, because your book will not just sell on its own. You be the one to market it. You need to keep on publicizing it. You need to keep on talking about it. Else, it will be in your shelf. You'll be the only one to read it. So you keep talking about your book. Keep publicizing. Keep building that relationship with your audience. Let them know you who you are. Let them know what you do. Let them know what is the core message inside that book. I'll always tell writers that if somebody reads your book, what is one message they should be living with? That is what your audience should know. Number 12. What does impact mean to you as an author? Well, to me, impact means that something I wrote helped someone. That is what impact means. Something I wrote actually transformed somebody. Something I wrote actually gave insight to somebody. Something I wrote was really powerful to a person. And even if it's just one person, it is impact, because do you know what? if if one person receives light from my book, do you know what happens? He goes out and he shares that light to everybody. Now what has happened? It's like a seed that has been planted that yields fruit, and what people comes and pluck that fruit. So that to me is impact. That to me is a powerful impact, that one person can read my book and use that particular message he or she got from my book to transform his world, to transform his society. That to me is impact. Number 13 question. What advice would you give writers who feel stuck in unfinished drafts? See, I created a video recently to talk about why most writers never finish their book. And in the chapter 2 also, I think, I talked about how most writers wait for the right moment when they are feeling so good, when they wait for motivation, forgetting that motivation is not a writing strategy. So yeah, the advice I'll give you is that you shouldn't wait for a magic to happen. You don't wait for you to be in the mood. to write. I've seen writers that say, see, I don't feel like writing today, therefore I'm not writing. I'm not in the mood. I'm in a very bad mood today. I cannot write. See, you don't need to wait for the mood, the good mood that you can before you start writing. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. Just write. Keep writing. Even if it's one line, write it. Because you know what? Progress comes from those little steps. Progress comes from from one line you get one paragraph, isn't it? From one paragraph you get two paragraphs. Before you know, you have written a whole page of a book. Before you know, you've written 1,000 words. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just write. Just write. Don't wait until manna begins to fall from heaven. Don't wait until somebody pours wine inside your mouth or sprinkle sugar on your head. No, just write. Write it as it is. Even if the words are not perfect, just write. Because that is how you make progress as a writer. That is how you become an author that people would always talk about. Number 14 question. What is one truth about writing that people don't talk about enough? Hmm. Nobody told me that writing can be lonely. And I'm not saying that um people will not be around you, but this is you and your brain, right? Writing, typing on your computer, on your laptop, or on your phone. It's just you working with your brain. It can really be lonely because most times you have to isolate yourself from people just so that you can focus on that writing. I wasn't told about this part. I wasn't told that it can really be draining. People don't really talk about this. Somebody would write a book of 33,000 words and come out and say, I just completed my book of, but he wouldn't tell us that behind the scenes of writing these 33,000 words, there were times when I felt lonely. There were times when I questioned myself that, is this worth it? There were times when I almost wanted to drop this book and just go away. They wouldn't tell you that writing can be lonely. Writing can be stressful. Writing can be draining. Writing can be tasking because it is a work of your brain. It's a work of your head, your mind, emotions. It's a work where you have to carry out research, and you don't do this in a noisy place. You don't do this when there are distractions. You have to isolate yourself. You have to stay on your own just so that you can achieve that writing. So yeah, nobody told us that writing can be lonely, that it can be tasking, that it can be draining. Many people don't talk about this aspect, and I would really appreciate if we begin to talk about it. Because it has really affected many writers. There are so many writers that have given up because they feel that nobody loves them or nobody cares about them because they have been in that place of loneliness, and they are like, all these things I've been writing safe, nobody cares, nobody is reading, nobody even knows the challenge I'm passing through, is it worth it? And as a result of that, they give up. So talking about this thing will be an encouragement, will be an eye opener to other fellow writers that yes, so even though writing can be fun, even though writing can be interesting most times, Hmm? Writing is hard work, serious hard work. Writing is tasking. Writing can make you lonely. But do you know what keeps you? Determination. Determination, discipline, and the fact that you know that you have a message. You have a strong message. What is your strong why? You have a purpose as to why you are writing. That should keep you going despite the challenges that come with writing. And the last question is, what advice would you give your younger writing self? If I should meet my younger writing self, the Felicia of many years ago, do you know what I'll tell her? I'll tell her to be patient. I'll tell my younger writing self to be patient. Because when I started writing, then, I usually see writers with over 500 likes. And me, even getting 10 likes was like a war. So I was not patient. I was now looking for every means to gather likes. I would now be telling my audience to come and like my post. Can you imagine? I wasn't patient. I wanted to fly instead of instead of following due process. Instead of following the due process, I wanted to fly. So I would tell my, and it took me time before I was able to realize this. So I would tell my younger self that Felicia, you need to be patient. My baby wants to sleep. Felicia, you need to be patient. Yes, even though you are not getting enough engagement now, I will tell her that, see, every piece of your writing matters a lot. Every piece, no matter how imperfect they may be, is a part of you becoming a better writer. Every piece of your writing is strong, and it is what is going to build you to become a better writer. Because let me tell you, no good writer started out as perfect. They made mistakes. They had to learn. They had to relearn. They had to unlearn until they became perfect. So I will tell her, Felicia, be patient. And to every Felicias out there in my younger version, please take this advice seriously. Be patient and keep writing. Don't stop writing. My name is Felicia, and I really enjoyed having this conversation